Hot Water History, episode 212. Wednesday night, Wednesday before July 4th. Richard, what's going on?
Happy to be here. Happy to talk about four new bishops, Rothbard turning 100, and the legacy of that polymath genius of economics, social issues, policy, politics. He was just mathematics. He was just on top of it all. Thank God for dear Murray. And then we get to talk again, as we tend to do, for the benefit and edification of our audience about the wild and crazy happenings in our favorite suburb. So happy to be back on the podcast.
How's your health?
It's better than it was on Friday last week. One of the reasons for the delay in the podcast, we try to stay faithful to one a week. Hate to disappoint, but yeah, one of the reasons for the delay was that I was hospitalized. I had to go in for abdominal surgery on my gallbladder, so had to get it out.
Did they figure it out? Figure what was going on?
Yeah, yeah. So as you know, we've commented a lot, and it bore out to be true. Individuals operating within the medicinal industrial complex can be good and altruistic. The system can be rotten, and I encounter just that. They're just wildly capable, kind, considerate professionals as nurses, as phlebotomists, who's ever going from taking my blood out to lab technicians to the surgeon himself. They were all extremely
Oh, high
kind,
grades.
professional. Yeah, yes. And it was done at a Jesuit University hospital. So they didn't hold my Dominican past against me, nor my rather pointed critiques of the entire order. I don't know if they probably didn't know that. Uh, Presented myself as a devout, faithful Roman Catholic. I did happen to see on the way to surgery the chapel, which was a modernist catastrophe, but otherwise, pretty good experience. Remunerative care is what the system does pretty well, especially if there's a considerable health crisis, which this was. I went to immediate care on Friday night after experiencing these intense abdominal pains, and I had been experiencing this over the course of about a month, off and on, to the point where I was bent over in pain. And I thought it was just attributable to indigestion or something I had eaten, and got to immediate care. Again, very professional, kind, charismatic doctor said, listen, you're in otherwise great health, but you should not be experiencing this type of abdominal pain on repeated occasions. And it could be anything from diverticulitis, even though that's a little bit odd for someone your age, all the way through to kidney stones, to gallbladder problems, could be pancreatic in nature. So you got to go. He said, I hate to ruin your Friday night and your entire weekend, but you got to go to the emergency room. And I, by that time, when he was examining me at the immediate care, I had felt better, and we joked that he had this miraculous healing touch, because I went from about a 9 and 10 in pain all the way down to about a 4 or 5, and down to a 3-2 by the end of the exam. So I was of the opinion, I'm like, well, I don't have to do anything now, right? I could go home. And he's like, no, it doesn't work that way. And so right away took, I went into the emergency room. I was pleasantly surprised that on a Friday night at a major suburban but very close to urban hospital system and hospital itself, the wait wasn't extraordinary. Got triaged right away and did have to wait for tests and stuff like that to come through, but the emergency room docs were great. I will say that they didn't have a bet that once they determined I'd have to stay and be admitted and then have surgery whenever available, as quickly as possible. So essentially, what they did was I had to have a CAT scan, and they determined I had gallstones, and the pain was being caused probably, although they weren't absolutely sure, but I gallstones going into various ducts
Yeah.
and getting caught or trapped and causing this intense pain. And then when they would pass or something like that, that's when the relief would come. So I had to have a CAT scan. They confirmed that. But the Friday night into Saturday morning, I had to stay in the ER,
Mm.
which I don't know. I must have been absolutely exhausted because I did sleep, but I slept kind of upright, and I never do that. I'm a side sleeper. How about you? Are you a side
Back,
sleeper or back
back,
or?
back.
I think you gotta be psychotic to be a stomach sleeper. But anyway, uh, I wonder if there's a correlation. But in any case, the so I had to stay. I sat sleeping up, and the emergency room was very noisy. The night shift nurses, they gab. I mean, they're talking the whole time at the top of their lungs, so they obviously don't care if you're sleeping or not. But that was probably the worst part because it was loud and there were all these people coming in, a lot of drug overdoses
Mm,
coming in. Norcan was used a great deal. There was a woman that kept saying, quit touching me," and no one was around her.
mm.
So kept hearing that. Was very thankful to finally get a shared room, but I did share it with a very cantankerous 90-year-old was when I got in my shared room. So that was kind of funny. The nurses were very accommodating to me, so they'd be nice to because I was the nice one, I suppose, and very appreciative. And this guy was,
Oh, yeah.
soiling himself and didn't care. Oh, did I shit myself? Well, you got to clean it up. That sort of thing to the nurses. Oh man. But and so got had surgery, got out, released, had laparoscopic gallbladder removal. My pancreas was in bad shape too because the pancreas apparently reacts and sends out hormones and enzymes that are when your abdominal tract is or your gastrointestinal system and digestive system is experiencing trauma for some reason that the pancreas reacts and it causes these enzymes to be released which are not good. And my pancreatic enzyme release was 5 times normal.
Yeah.
So they knew something was seriously wrong. That's why I was admitted right away rather than having an outpatient procedure scheduled. So I'm back and with you here. So yeah, got some interesting scars. And the kids asked, "Hey, Dad," my daughter asked, "Hey, Dad, do you have scars?" I go, "Yeah, here. You want to take a look?" She goes, "Oh, gross." So yeah, she got to see the stomach or belly scars, but feeling better and outside of soreness and some aches there here and there and limitations because it is major surgery. You have to not do the stuff that you'd rather be doing, like can't lift a bunch of stuff or do runs, but
Yeah.
all told, generally good experience. It was not. I immediately wanted to compare it to. I was wondering, given our expat previous episodes, what it would have been like if it was in Malaysia, or if it was in Singapore or China. Um, but anyway, we'll see how it goes with recovery and stuff of that nature.
Nice. How's
Yeah,
it feel today? Just sore?
yeah, just sore, kind of limiting. It's amazing because you're everything's so interconnected. When you're talking about your body activity or what have you. So my back hurts sometimes because you're not as confident in terms of using your abdominal muscles for stuff.
Right.
Like, so you bend over and you twist your back or something like that
Have
because
you
you're usually,
sneezed? Have you sneezed yet?
yeah, I sneezed. I'm okay. A real hard thing immediately was blowing my nose. I really wanted to blow my nose and I just couldn't, I didn't have them, like my muscles just wouldn't do it. I just wouldn't, my diaphragm or whatever muscles I use in the abdomen to blow
Turning
your
in the
nose.
car? Have you had to turn in the car?
Turn in the car?
Like steering wheel?
Yes. Yeah. As long as
Okay.
I'm not on serious drugs, I can drive.
It doesn't
Serious.
hurt though?
Mm-mm. No, I think the surgeon did, from what I can tell, an excellent job. There was a team that diagnosed me, and it was meticulous, and they explained things. They didn't treat me like an idiot. So, uh, and they were very friendly and pretty gregarious. Actually, they weren't like, oh, we're gonna hit him with a lot of jargon, and then he's gonna say yes to whatever we want to do. No, they were very straightforward. Like
Wow.
that.
Good experience for Rich Eye in the marketplace in 2026. Who'd have thought?
Whatever limited marketplace is operative still
Who would have thought?
in medicine. Yeah. So, but I did imagine, using that facility that we're all given, our imagination, I did s start to use my imagination as to what it would look like if there were no government inhibitions and strictures placed on the healthcare system. How incredible it would be, because it has that potential, given the technological and innovative feats that have been advanced in medicine. I mean, I imagine how explosively good and advanced the care of patients would become, given the amount of capital and resources that are poured into it, if it was allocated in the correct and proper market functionality.
Yeah. Is that all on the gallbladder?
Yeah. So, if you see me on the street, don't punch me in the stomach. That's what feel free to try to do battle with the old noodle, the old logic brain. That's still working. The stomach usually, and it's funny too, Charlie, because where I've been focusing on workouts has been my abdomen. So I actually joked with one of the younger female doctors. I asked her in recovery. I said, it doesn't look like it now, but I do like to work out. When can I go back to stuff? She goes, oh, well, don't push it. You got to wait like 3 weeks to a month before you start doing abdominal workouts again. Okay. So kind of laying low here. Can't golf for another 3, 4 weeks either, which is
It's
sucks
a
because
bummer.
it's in the middle of summer. But maybe I'll make up for lost time when the fall erupts. There's nothing like fall golf. I like fall golf.
Let's talk SSPX. What's going on here?
So the Society of St. Pius X went ahead with its consecrations of 4 new bishops, and it occurred earlier today in Cologne, Switzerland, headquarters of the SSPX. And of course, Catholic trad Twitter is ablaze with all of these takes. Everybody has to have a take on the SSPX, and whether it's, oh, no, it's definitely schismatic, or actually it's just in keeping with the church tradition and out of necessity for the salvation of souls. You need bishops to continue on the apostolic faith and continue on with traditions. So therefore, this is such a great remedy to the crisis that is clearly inflicted, or has been inflicting, or afflicting, excuse me, has been afflicted upon and is afflicting the church. And we have some commentary. One of the bishop elects was an American, Father Goldaddy, now Bishop Goldaddy, and he is a brilliant scholar, theologian, philosopher. He was given the honor of preaching at Vespers post consecration. So I thought we'd take it because I love his very one of the issues that's hitting me recently is what makes, as we're talking about the 250th, anniversary of the Declaration of Independence and America. Uh, what makes it uniquely American? I don't think there's very many good qualities that make us uniquely American anymore. So very positive, clear, universal attributes, universal to American attributes. But I do find it one of the things that perhaps is traditionally American is this willingness to embrace being the individual and being the rogue and just stepping out and being and boldly proclaiming stuff, and as we say oftentimes in the podcast, come what may. And this is now Bishop Goldaddy just laying it out for the conciliar, synodal, and true church what the state of things are or is, excuse me, and what the road is going forward for serving God rather than man. So let's go ahead and play that.
Of course, today we see such wreckage. If the Catholic Church in her tradition brings forth life, the modernist church is a desert. It kills. It kills everything that it touches. It kills the supernatural life. It kills the sources of grace. It dries up everything because it has placed man in the place of God and therefore turned away from the sources of life. So this is a reminder today to be faithful to the sacred entrustment which our Lord has given to his church and continues down through the apostolic tradition. I heard many times, in fact, leading up to the consecrations, from faithful who are not part of our circles, from those outside of the society even outside of tradition. I heard a common thought, a common sentiment. The church needs these consecrations.
Powerful
Pretty
stuff.
succinct. Obviously, that wasn't the entire sermon, but we can only assume that it took a familiar line, a consistent line, jumping off of that major point thesis.
The modernist church destroys. It's destructive. It's not just
Right, and
it's not just a distraction, or it's not just
correct.
something that went wrong.
Yes, it's
It's not
not
just
a
a
fork
bad
in the road.
decisions.
It's not a bad fork in the road that we took and we can always make our way back to Albuquerque, you know? It's not a la Bugs Bunny. You know, oh, I took a wrong turn at Albuquerque, you know, or something like that. It's not like that. It is a path to hell. And this is consistent with the fathers in the patristic tradition. You know, Athanasius didn't, and Cyril of Alexandria didn't mince words when they confronted the the existential and eternal dangers of Arianism and Nestorianism, respectively. They didn't couch their terms in reconciliation and communion and fraternity and all these catchphrases. They said this is damning. As Athanasius said, when the Arians took over the churches and monasteries and buildings that had otherwise been operative under the true Catholic Church, even during his time as bishop and as Patriarch of Alexandria, and he fled, and then the Arians take over. Well, he in his famous declaration and letter to the faithful who are dismayed by all of these, where's the faithful and Orthodox flock going to go? He said, "They have the buildings, we have the faith. Don't God allows all this to happen. Let us test our resolve and be faithful to Him, even when it's not comfortable." And I think that in large part and large measure is what Bishop Goldaddy and his fellow elect in the SSPX are doing. Do I wish they would go further and just simply declare that Francis and Leo are anti-popes? That would make things much cleaner. They're reluctant to do so. I think they're trying to be conciliatory and at the same time, a conciliatory message with a modernist church. It just, what's the purpose? I mean, there was no need for reconciliation between the Arians and the Athanasians, i.e. Catholics. There was no, there was a line, I forget who said it. The church is not ecumenical. The Catholic Church is not supposed to be ecumenical. It's supposed to be missionary. And that's what the SSPX are. And the fact that everybody leaves out because of all the accolades that are rightly conferred and attributed to Marcel Lefebvre, Archbishop Lefebvre, who started the SSPX. Brilliant theologian, philosopher, linguist, all of these things. People forget that he was an explosively successful missionary. He went to West Africa. He went to French West Africa and in Dakar and Senegal, Cote d'Ivoire, and even in places like Mali, he spread the pre-Vatican actual Catholic faith. The foundations of West African and in large part Francophone African Catholicism are thanks to Marcel Lefebvre. And they're running on gas. They're running on fumes since him. Right. I mean, that's how successful he was. People forget that missionary spirit and all the success that he had. And that's not to say that there aren't obviously beautiful and profoundly successful seeds that are now planted, and then now have been grown into great pockets of traditional faithful Catholicism throughout Anglophone and Francophone Africa and even in Portuguese areas like Mozambique or something like that. But there's also the Novus Ordo syncretist faith that is also alive there, and that's a failure. Now, does it happen? Does it just so happen that because Africa and the African bishops are much more conservative, does it mean that they are oftentimes the faithful voice in the wilderness when idiocy comes out of Rome and Europe? Yeah, that's true. But they could even go further and recognize the true problems and crisis and emergency situation in which the church finds herself.
Anything else on that?
Not really, other than God bless the SSPX. And we ask for the prayers and intercessions of the four
How does
bishop
this
elect.
end? We're at July 1st today. what's going to happen
Yes,
August
I,
1st, what we're going to be talking about.
I really don't. I don't think this ends until there's an election of a good, faithful pope. We need a Council of Constance 1415 moment, wherein we have the resignation of anti-popes or pretenders, or the death of a anti-pope who was successfully portraying himself as an authentic leader and successor of the Petrine See, and then the election of an actual faithful pope. Maybe that comes because everybody looks at the youth of anti-pope Prevost as problematic. Well, let's look at it on the bright side. That generation of 1960s, 70s, and 80s Novus Ordo radical modernist and synodal priests who became bishops, and then they made more progressive and synodal modernist prelates. That's dying off. So what happens? Who's going to replace them? Well, they're decidedly more conservative, and it's from those initial moves or those seeds that maybe a faithful pope is elected and can remedy all this. And it could be done very quickly. Just recognize that the modernist church is bunk. The Vatican II has to be recognized as a failed council, which it obviously is. It's just a catastrophe. And then parse out what could be taken from the council as authoritative with clear explanations about
What could be taken out of Vatican II as
yes,
authoritative?
yes, what could be gleaned from Vatican II as a pastoral council without dogmatic authority, and simply say, okay, well, this is now if what is said here in Lumen Gentium means this in the traditional sense, then that's what is authoritative. But if it's the modernist interpretation, and clearly they placed means by which it could be interpreted in a modernist light, well, then sure enough, then that has to be expunged. That's just heretical. Because you can't keep going on. It's been 60 plus years now of this wink nod. How do we reconcile this notion of continuity? Is there really continuity when, whether it's in the issues of ecumenism, religious freedom, you name it, uh, even just how we understand authority operative vis-a-vis the church and as it is or is ordained by Christ to operate, these are significant. These aren't even significant. These are essential conflicts and contradictions that they can't be resolved through dialogue or something like that. Because what the modernists always want whenever they bring up the idea of dialogue is you capitulate and we move forward. I mean, that's even in the language of Prevost when he says, well, we have to move forward. Well, move forward from what? Upon what are you establishing yourself in your authority? And they obviously believe that Vatican inaugurated a new religion. So they're following a new religion. The SSPX says, no, you don't follow a new religion. If you want to do that, go off and do your own thing and recognize that you're not Catholic. But we're Catholic. It's the classic Cambridge change in philosophy. If there are two parties and one moves to the left and the other one stays pat, that doesn't mean the other one moved to the right. It's a relational change. It's not that the party that stayed still is now unfaithful. No, it's remaining consistent and principled.
So is SSPX just going to continue to grow? August 1st, we're going to be talking about.
Yeah, there's a lot of speculation in the Twitter Catholic trad sphere about, well, now there's going to be a lot of defections, and because people are not happy if Chucho Fernandez as the imagine we have Victor Manuel Fernandez, who's an abject heretic, is the head of the dicastery for the doctrine of the faith. I mean, it's insane. But is he going to issue excommunications? And there was talk about, well, they're going to excommunicate not just the priests and the bishops, they're going to excommunicate all the laity, which is essentially it's not unlike how the medieval popes put a country under interdict. So it was collective punishment, given some grave infraction perpetrated or grave crime perpetrated by a country's leaders, so as to rouse the faithful to move them toward correction, self-correction as a country, as a nation. But we'll see. frankly, I think it's just going to grow because people are hungry for the authentic Orthodox Catholic Sacra Doctrina that the SSPX provides in its liturgy, in its teaching, in its catechesis, in its life. It's an authentic Christian Catholic life. And the magnetism of that cannot be suffocated. It cannot be extinguished.
Yeah. American Reform, Mises,
Yeah, we could go in and I had a little, what do we call it? Twitter tiff and
little
an
scuffle,
X bout. I don't know.
X scuffle.
X scuffle. Yeah, yeah. Well, it's not X in terms of former because it's living on, but had a pretty strong exchange with American Reform, who, God bless him, is right on 90% of Catholic and philosophical thought. He does have this weird air that almost invalidates all of the other wise and sagacious things that he writes about and comments on. And he does have a deep knowledge base, but essentially he's a fascist. I don't know how else to describe him. He's for the elevation of he's an integrationist. So he wants the church to have such informative power and integral connections with the state that it essentially dictates by a coercion Catholic mores, faith to a general public, in this case, the United States. Good luck with that. I don't think that'll ever work. Although I have to say that American Reform is good in pointing out the idiocy of people like Michael Knowles, who got up in a recent public forum and said that really the American founding is all very Catholic. Well, actually, Michael, it's Masonic, it's Talmudic, it it is aggressively anti-Catholic from just reading anything from the fathers. I'm sorry, the fathers of the Constitution, but let's call them the uh, the initial founders of the United States. I mean, there's a virulent anti-Catholicism. In fact, anti-Catholicism is what really brought them together, by and large. They disagreed on relatively a lot of other things, but man, could Hamilton and Jefferson ever get together and have a good old time talking about the ravages of popery, right? So, yeah. But anyway, that's American Reform in a nutshell. He's often featured, and he's a contributor, by the way, to Stephen Cox's publication, Integrity Magazine. You can tell what the goal of Integrity Magazine, by and large, is integrationists are making the faith integral to the state or working in an hand and glove fashion. Obviously, you and I are adamantly against such a proposition because it sucks, it's coercive, and therefore not Catholic. So why are we trying to use a mechanism, an institution that's quite demonic to spread the faith in a coercive, i.e., non-Catholic or conventional way? But so American Reform, he has me in mind in part because he and I have exchanged, well, let's call them points or arguments. And he writes in this post. Why don't I let you read that as he's trying to ferret me out a bit?
What is the easiest way to ferret out libertarians among our ranks, i.e., those who defend the tenets of economic liberalism? See if they refuse to uphold these two principles of Catholic economics.
And let me interject here just a bit. Whenever they talk about economic liberalism or liberalism in general, the integrationists, they really assault capitalism for everything that capitalism is not. So they want to say that economic liberalism or liberalism in general, sort of Lockean theory of governance, economic theories that emerged from the Chicago and Austrian schools. They refuse to admit that Salamanca in the 14th, 15th, and 16th century was the beginning of what amounted to Austrian economics, but it was. And it was thoroughly Catholic, so they kind of reject that. So Juan de Mariana, sorry, you might have been a Jesuit and a faithful one, but the minute you started talking about just prices and recognizing that the state has no role in doing that and often complicates, in fact, makes impossible through its interventions the establishment of just price. All that being the case, they really get angry and the fangs come out whenever those ideas are brought up. So yeah, they attack capitalism for what it's not. They believe it's just a system of, and this is where they get pretty anti-Semitic. Even I'm saying this. This is where they actually get pretty anti-Semitic because my retort will be something like, "Well, you haven't read Mises, you haven't read Rothbard," and they'll say, "Oh, you mean those two Jews?"
Right.
It's just that childish of retorts. And then I say, well, if you're gonna if you're going to just say that the theories and contributions in economics or related fields are so invalid just because of the Jewish identity, then I want you better come out and condemn Aquinas for using Averroes and Avicenna and Maimonides, two Muslims, a Jew, using, well, hey, Aristotle didn't know the faith, and yet he's the philosopher, according to Aquinas. So I don't see any of these condemnations of Thomism, but well, I'm asking for consistency for people who have made a living, at least in their ideologies or ideological formation, of being inconsistent. I'm asking for consistency. I'll allow you to continue.
See if
Sorry.
they refuse to uphold these two principles of Catholic economics. One, the state and subordinate public authorities are the quote, true and effective directing principle of economic affairs, not free competition of corporations and individuals.
Yeah, see there, and then here's you could tell right away that you could, but this is a lot of proof texting. So they love to take quotes, a random quote from like Quadragesimo Anno by Pius XI and extend it as making it being authoritative in the sphere of economics when the popes might reference in various encyclicals from Rerum Novarum on about the possible evils that might ensue from an operation of the free market where human greed, envy, distrust, mendacious action takes place. Well, you're essentially blaming capitalism for human action, and human the fallen nature of humans, and never are the same standards applied to corporatism or syndicalism, which is what American reform would certainly want under a fascist. The guy's a fascist, so that's what he would want. Yeah, and the idea again, how blind to history do you have to be to believe that the church, in her effective magisterium, is actually teaching that the true and effective directing principles of economic affairs ought to be the state? Because the state has proven itself to be such a wise and beneficent director of economic affairs. Okay, good luck. I mean, don't come to me with all these complaints about communists, CCP in China, or and this is why they love Mussolini, they love Franco, they love Hitler and the Nazis, these integralists, or at least they're trying to rehabilitate their economic and social policies when in reality, on all fronts, it was catastrophic. Maybe producing some immediate and very short-lived and myopic, short-seen gains, but in the long run, disastrous because there are things called trade-offs, and the state doesn't have the capacity to do price calculations the way that the market can.
Two, the state has the right and often duty to positively intervene
Yes.
in the economy to remedy various evils.
Right, because we all can list all of the positive state interventions. They're so numerous as to outweigh the negative interventions, right? Even and we're just talking about the ones that are rightly intended. Let's forget about the ones that are just cronyistic, and they want to have capitalism assume the tumors or the mutations of cronyism and the like, and syndicalism, corporatism. But the free market doesn't operate in those ways, nor does it operate or want to operate, can it, by definition, operate with so many thumbs on the proverbial scales. So I had a retort.
You said.
Oh, okay. So I wrote, you are completely unaware and or keeping yourself intentionally ignorant of Austrian economics. While you continuously define the proper operation of a free market, i.e. social cooperation and human freedom, in the Marxist sense of dog eat dog, in quote, capitalism. God ordained men to be free. And that's the other thing that these integralists will never talk about. Where does human free will play a role here? They never talk about freedom or human agency.
The individual, yeah.
Yeah, it's all corporate. It's all and very command and control. It's a command and control system. God ordained man to be free and to cooperate with one another in society. Christ himself spoke openly of and advocated for freedom of exchange, investment, and even such economic laws as marginal utility. Enough of your devilish central planning. It's contrary to the Decalogue, the gospel, and tradition. Yeah, that's pretty frank, right? And then he responded, Charlie, if you want to play the foil.
May I ask, which approved commentaries on the social encyclicals are you drawing your economic views from? As Catholics, the ecclesiastical magisterium as understood faithfully by approved authors, should be the starting piece for any discussion, not accepting obviously economics.
Okay, to which I responded, it's been a very long time since I read I should have put in quote, approved commentaries as a student brother OP, Dominican back in the aughts. That's the 2000s. Uh, but let's just go back to the doc, which really started it all, and for which your subsequent popes to Leo XIII counted anniversaries, and that's Rerum Novarum. In RN, Rerum Novarum, the Marxists and utopians love to trumpet appeals to the protections of unions, concern for labor, etc., as though a properly operational free market does not allow for unions and naturally crushes labor. The opposite is quite true. The opposite of true is true, of course. I actually wrote what was in my train of thought there. Central planners simply expropriate labor to the state. Meanwhile, free market allows for and even promotes just collective bargaining sans state intervention. I do enjoy our exchanges, American Reform, in that I find you knowledgeable if on this issue of misinformed foil. The rest of your stuff is spot on. Okay. And then I guess I don't want to say he threw in the towel or anything like that, but American Forum got off, and then we got another guy chiming in who's another statist, and he wrote, this Carlos guy, real libertarianism hasn't been tried yet. All right, so I said that's cute, but all in all, that's cute and all, but I'm not a libertarian. Natural law dictates, however, that the closer we approach a diminutive and to non-existent state, the more market economics and natural hierarchies take over. This does not prevent decadence, hubris, nor vice, but neither does the inevitable impoverishment that results from etatism and central planning. So then he wrote that you could be the foil here, anarchist, same difference. There is a big difference. Would you agree? Is there a sizable difference between anarchist and libertarian?
Yes.
Yes. And it's not just the 6 months that exist between minarchist and libertarian. Okay. It's a gulf, and it's just a recognition that dear Murray Rothbard, whose 100th birthday we celebrate just this year, past month, and I was graced with the Mises Institute missive, the Misesian, on Murray Rothbard's Science Toward Liberty. I mean, think about this Jew. Well, he was talking about forming a knowledge basis and a foundation of theories and theorems and principles that would be the guiding, what we might call otherwise philosophy behind what makes men free and what ought to keep us free, or why we ought to remain free. The church doesn't talk a lot about that, unfortunately, because it's been swept up in these controversies about authority, state, church, and otherwise. But we really should go back to it. We really should examine it as we do oftentimes. So the guy wrote Anarchist, Same Difference. Go ahead.
Anarchist, same difference. Market economics and natural hierarchies don't prevent impoverishment, nor some degree of state and planning naturally arising.
Okay, whatever that means. But so I said, that's where you're wrong. 10,000 Liechtensteins of the Holy Roman Empire, Genovese merchants, and Karl Menger proving monetary regression theory, namely that human society invented money, not the dictats of the state. Just test this out. Do you prefer private stuff or public stuff? Private park or public park, schools, bathrooms, beaches? Why is that? You lack imagination. So, I mean, he'll go on to say, well, so Liechtenstein is not a state. That's not the point. The Hanseatic League and the City-State of Genoa did have government, but they were largely run by the market operatives in each. And it was the state. It was actually, what's great about those is that it was the proverbial or identified state or governmental political figures who were subservient to the merchants in those places. And what should happen as a result, so long as the state wasn't used as a means by which to disadvantage competition or outside traders or what have you, and commerce, or origins of commerce. Well, guess what? Prosperity flourished in those areas. There's a reason why we know of the famous Genovese merchants, the most famous one being Columbus, but then also of the wealth that was created in places like Antwerp and other locales in Northern Europe, and that were members of the Hanseatic League. So there we go.
Humans created money.
Yeah.
What do you say to that?
Well, who else would have done it? I don't know if we got it from the old primates, and a bird didn't drop down a gold coin and say, yours is money, something like that. So yes, humans created money. That's true. You're saying nothing. And I don't know what the part about same for parks at all. I don't quite get to what he's saying, other than I'm trying to have him make a distinction between organic hierarchies of righteous authority who gain their power and authority from consent of the governed, okay, or those who wish to enter into contract with said authorities, versus the always coercive and intrusive nature of the state. But people don't want to see it. It's like this uniquely toxic tidal wave that's just always on the horizon, but let's not talk about it. It's the woolly mammoth in the room that no one wants to talk about, even though they constantly get gored by the tusks. That's the state. Should we talk about people who really, really love?
I was gonna say we should talk about a town who had no idea what we were just talking about for the last.
Yeah, no statues to Murray Rothbard or Karl Menger or Eugen von Bavarik or Friedrich Hayek or any of those guys.
Percy Julian, though.
Percy Julian's gonna get he gets he gets a whole block. He gets a block. You know why? Because he was a chemist and he was black.
Here it is, people.
Meanwhile in Oak Park.
We should go to your gay suburb now.
The People segment. Meanwhile, in Oak Park. Brought to you by Tridentine Brewing. Going to start out with a bit of a sad one here.
Oh boy.
Oak Park teen faces Grant Park murder charge.
Whoa.
An Oak Park teen, Alil Argudo Tenorio, has been charged with murder in the fatal shooting of a bicyclist, Malik Jones, in Grant Park the night of June 16th. Argudo Tenorio was arrested at his home on the 900 block of South Humphrey the following evening. He was arraigned Friday, but it is unclear where or whether he is being held.
Arraigned.
Oh, sorry. Arraigned.
He was,
He was
arranged.
arraigned.
That'd be
He was
awesome.
arraigned.
He was I hope he gets rearranged in prison.
Well, I'm going to talk about why this is sad in a second. Chicago
Okay.
police investigators say he is the person who shot Malik, 27, as he rode a divvy bike in the 300 block of East Jackson Drive around 12:19 a.m. June 16th. Malik, who lived at the Pacific Garden Mission, 1400 South Canal Street, died less than 2 hours later.
The guy's essentially homeless.
The Cook County Medical Examiner ruled the death a homicide and cause of death as multiple gunshot wounds. A posting on the Prep Hoops website in August 2022 shows Argudo Tenorio as a 5'5" freshman point guard at Oak Park and River Forest High School. He was listed as being in the OPRF class of 2026, but his name was not among the graduates listed in Wednesday Journal, June 10th.
That's it.
This story, here's where it gets a little crazy, Rashad. This story is crazy. I coached Alil in basketball during COVID.
Wow. Holy cow. So you had direct contact with this kid, huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
So
What was he like? I mean,
it wasn't one of those, he was on my team, but I was in practices he was in. I was the counselor of camps that he was in. I'm not trying
you're not trying to
shoo that
embellish.
away. I'm just saying that is a bit of a troubled kid, like rough, hit a player one time in practice.
Okay.
Hit another, or like a teammate. And this was also during COVID. And I think COVID, when I first heard about this, that was my first thought. To be honest, I just went back to COVID because this was I was coaching during COVID.
That's when you had contact with this kid. Yeah.
I just think we know that COVID elevated everything. And I think that the punk kid from 15 years ago who might have spent a weekend in jail because he pranked somebody, he's a murderer now. I think that type of person, if you were a troubled kid 15 years ago, you were a really troubled kid during COVID.
Mm.
And if you were a good kid 15 years ago, you were a really good kid during COVID.
Okay.
And I don't know. It's one of those weird stories. I didn't think I would ever have to deal with this or think about this.
Right.
So.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry to hear that. And man, I wonder, well, I hope there's more that comes out about what was the motive or the situation, what were the circumstances where, I mean, this kid's just walking around in Grant Park. First of all, you shouldn't be walking around Grant Park in downtown Chicago past midnight. And what are you doing?
Well,
Okay.
you've seen the teen takeovers.
Yes, right. So you,
I think this might have been part of that.
sure. And then this, yeah. How old was the guy? 27? He shot him as he was riding a divvy bike. And what could this guy have possibly done to merit being shot multiple times by this kid? But well, we'll keep let's keep some connection to the story. Let's make sure we follow this up.
Little lighter note, OPRF board split on snack program for hungry students. Issue is real. Student-led project gets mixed response from
We're
board.
not going to give them any food because it's bad for them.
A proposal for Oak Park and River Forest High School to spend $157,000 next school year to fund 8 snack cabinets in the school's hallways was met with a mixed reaction from the OPRF District 200 School Board when the proposal was discussed at the June 25th school board meeting.
It better be filet, man.
The proposal was made by the group Students Feeding Students. The group was formed late last year. The student raised $11,556 this year. The group ran a self-funded pilot project in May in which the students stocked 4 cabinets in OPRF hallways with snacks for any student to take. The idea behind the free snacks is to combat hunger and food insecurity among students without stigma.
Why don't it's always about stigma, about so Calvinistic. If you see someone who's hungry, why don't you take your own food and give it to them?
Nolan Kruger, a rising senior at OPRF, is a leader of Students Feeding Students. In a
He
public
owns a whole grocery chain. Why doesn't he help out?
In a public comment
Kruger.
at the June 25th school board meeting, Kruger told the school board that the pilot program in May was a success. Quote, we've received overwhelmingly positive feedback from students and staff, Kruger said. As expected, it's not just the students who need snacks that take them. We've observed students who skip breakfast to arrive at school on time taking a snack, as well as students with a 6-period lunch or, other outstanding problems. This program has the ability to reach all parts of the school without a bit of stigma. Kruger said during the May pilot, the cabinets, which contained granola bars, goldfish crackers, and other snacks, were empty by the end of lunchtime every day. Kruger says Students Feeding Students surveyed 475 students after the May rollout and found 40% had taken a snack from a cabinet, while 80% had seen the cabinets.
And 120% said they sold the stuff to kids who really
Right.
needed it.
Yeah. The students are also asking for a refrigerator stocked with items such as milk, yogurt, cheese sticks, meat and cheese snacks, and Lunchables.
Just put beef sandwiches in there.
Kruger's mother, Molly Hurdle, has been helping Students Feeding Students. Hurdle has formed a group called Oak Park Mutual Aid, which plans to operate somewhat like a parent-teacher organization for OPRF and
Need
hopes
one
to
of those.
obtain official status from the school this summer. Kruger said Mutual Aid wrote up the proposal last November. Among those speaking in support of the project was Oak Park Village trustee Jenna Leving Jacobson. Quote, over the past several months, I have had the great privilege of observing the inspiring group of OPRF students first identify the injustice of food insecurity at their school, study and learn about the causes of that injustice and the current insufficient response to it, Leving Jacobson told
Oh my gosh. Talking about if you never pointed the always talking about the symptoms and never the cause or the disease. Like, how about someone call out why aren't these parents of these kids paying for their food? So instead, it has to become a bureaucratic, let's make another board of the school type of, yeah, problem. Ugh. Generalized problem.
While all board members praised the hard work and good intentions of the students, only 3 board members, Fred Arkin, Jonathan Livingston, and Kathleen Odell, seemed very supportive of the proposal. Quote, I think it's a really, really compelling proposal to a really, really worrisome problem.
Well, as long as you use 4 reallys.
3 other board members, Tim Brandhorst, Josh Gertz, and board president Audrey Williams-Lee, expressed reservations about the snack cabinet proposal, while Graham Brisbane said more study and meetings were needed. No vote was taken, and the proposal will be discussed at another board meeting, likely this summer when it will probably get a formal vote. Odell said she liked that the snacks were available to everyone, a key component of the proposal because that avoids any stigma or embarrassment for students who might need a snack because of not having enough food at home.
But there's no embarrassment for the kid who's totally fed and just wants to take goldfish from it. I mean, there should be a stigma on that kid, right?
Right. But it is that universal access that caused problems for Brandhurst, Gertz, and
Okay.
Williams-Lee. They questioned whether having snacks available for all students during the school day was the best way to combat the food insecurity of some students.
Oh my gosh.
Quote,
Some logical conclusions made here.
it is incumbent on us to look at alternatives that are going to directly address that food insecure cohort specifically, Brandhurst said before going on to state his concern with the snack cabinet area. Williams-Lee also wondered whether snack cabinets are the best way to address food insecurity. Quote, I'm challenged by not knowing if the food is going to the kids who really need it, Williams-Lee said. What the students have done is, I think, a really great start. I don't necessarily know that this is the right solution for our kids and families who are experiencing food insecurity. Gertz said that the meals, not snacks, are the best way to combat hunger, noting that some of the snacks are mostly empty calories. Quote, the idea of bottomless snacks is not super convincing to me, Getz said.
Understatement.
After the meeting, Kruger said he didn't know much about the food needs of those who took snacks from the cabinet in May. Quote, there's no real way to track it, Kruger said. He said he is happy that the board is considering the proposal. I'm just glad that we finally got into the boardroom, Kruger said. Williams-Lee said she would like the board to consider other ideas to help food insecure students whose families don't qualify for free or reduced lunch who need help, perhaps figuring out a way to add money to those students' lunch cards.
Oh, sheesh.
Quote, I want to understand who it is we're trying to help and actually help those students in ways that are sustainable. But Arkin warned against endless study and delay, even though he said that the school board is still in the figuring out stage. Arkin said he wants the program to continue to be student-led. Quote, I am supportive of moving forward for next year and setting up some kind of formal arrangement, Arkin said. Gertz said that there is no rush. Quote, I'd rather the administration bring up a viable solution, and if that takes until December, I'm okay with that, Gertz said. Last one, opinion piece, letters to the editor.
Oh wait, pause 1 second. The dog wants into the office.
Okay.
Come on, Linus, quit the whining. You're in here. Okay, relax. I don't know what you want. I don't know if you want treats or what's going on here. All right. Sorry for that. Continue on, Charles.
Last one, letters to the editor, wrestling with the devil. Fighting on the lawn, blue skies torn. On brutal claw, millions spent. Will grandpa sleep through this event? Schoolboy fisticuffs in the yard. Rubberneckers thrilling hard. Where roses bloom, chaos reigns. The Constitution scorched in flames. A reality show of manic force. A bloody, snotty, man-child course. Liberty closes her eyes in sorrow. Justice blind to a lawless tomorrow. 'Tis truly the hour of our discontent. Epstein murders to war we're sent. Buying islands where billionaires play, while taxpayers foot the bill each day. Yet I believe deep in my heart, America will make a brand new start. Stand up, join hands across every aisle, together again in resolute style. Spend on people, on hope and repair, health, education, and the future we share.
Well, move over Dante. I mean, and Virgil too, both of you.
That's the people segment.
No commentary.
Meanwhile in Oak Park.
What would have happened if I'd gone for it and just said, no, I'm gay? No.
We'll just leave it at that. I believe in America.
I've got one last question. I've got one last question for you.
Yeah, sure.
What does July 4th, the 250th anniversary of the United States of America, mean to you?
Absolutely nothing.
Nothing?
No, I mean, I guess I could lament. How long are we supposed to lament the passing of the American ideal and republic when it died in 1865 or in 1945? I mean, it. I guess it means that it should. I guess it should mean that we should be selling more books. Damn it! But we're not. We don't have any campaign or anything like that. So I guess it doesn't really. I just might be astounding how long this has continued on, and maybe the perdurance of it all, the charade since 45, the revolution that was, but What does it mean to you?
More than nothing, but not
Yeah, it's
not everything.
it doesn't mean anything to me.
Remember the quote at the end of A Hidden Life,
What is it?
where I'm gonna totally mess up the quote, but it basically breaks down the name that let me just pull it up. For the growing good of the world is partly dependent on unhistoric acts, and that things are not so ill with you and me as they might have been, is half owing to the number who live faithfully a hidden life and rest in unvisited tombs. I think about that a little bit during July 4th.
What does it mean?
What does it mean?
Yeah, to you. I mean, regarding America.
Oh, I'm
America.
saying that even though that there's been destruction of the original idea, there were still good men that fought for good causes of this, the original idea.
Hmm.
And I think about that a little bit. But
Okay. I'm happy for you.
I won't be doing sloppy.
I'm happy for, I mean,
sloppy USA chants for me, but
yeah, yeah. Oh well. In other words, you have a little bit of nostalgia for those guys, those times,
I guess
right? Okay. Cool.
just more so
And
gratitude.
this dog is one whiny bitch. I'll tell you that. Will you knock it off? God, you're such a baby. Go lay down. Relax, man. I know it's warm. Come on. Anyway, anything else, Charlie?
No, that's all I got.
Give this bitch a treat or something like that. Shut his yapper. Or in
Yes,
French, they say ferme ta gueule, which means shut your animal mouth. I like that.
that's
Ferme ta gueule.
I like
Yeah.
that.
All right. So we'll see everybody on the flip side of 250.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's a monumental event for Charlie.
Here's
He's
the
gonna be
200.
out there with he's gonna be out there with sparklers,
Here's
an
the
Uncle Sam
250.
costume.
Yeah.
I mean,
Here's the
Roman,
250 more.
you want, I was gonna say,
I'm so ripping that one. I'm so
why?
ripping
Do
that one.
have people said that?
I'm spamming that.
Yeah, do that. Do that. That's interesting. That would be an interesting thought experiment. If you wanted to be on that, hey, what if you could just ordain right now? We're gonna have 250 more. Like what the response of the world, the rest of the world be like, oh God, no, please stop. The 250 already was bad enough, right?
It's a good
And then what
litmus
Americans
test.
would say, huh?
I'm going to start using that heavy over the next 3 or 4 days. It's
Here's
a
the
good litmus
250
test
more.
to see where people stand.
Yeah, yeah. I think the boomers would be like, hell yeah, only 250, 250,000. And then everybody else would be like, oh shit, you know, some better change fundamentally here if we're gonna keep going on like this. But all right, that's interesting. That'll be a good. I can't wait to hear your findings.
Awesome.
All right, I'll talk to you later. Peace.
Peace.